In this segment, we are going to be talking about baking with tea. And I want to bake shortbread. Shortbread is a classic English tradition that is lovely with tea. But how about if we put tea in it? Today we're going to make Earl Grey shortbread. This recipe is simple, but can also be used with many other teas. If you choose to use it with a green tea, you can use matcha and easily replace the Earl Grey for the matcha as long as you remove the orange zest. So let's get started. First, I want to show you the Earl Grey that we're going to be using today. This Earl Grey comes from theteasource.com, and I can't say enough about their teas. This is a white tip Earl Grey. It is the most incredible smell. The bergamot is just phenomenal on this tea, and that's why I chose to use it. Now, one of the important things when you're using tea is that you're going to have to grind it. And you're going to want to get it to this kind of consistency. So, after you begin to grind it, the best way to do is just to toss this into either a small blender or a grinder or spice grinder, but it's best if it hasn't been used for anything except for tea. So actually, I just threw it into my blender and ground it quite fine, and so we're actually going to be using this finely ground tea. So let's take a look at the recipe. It's pretty simple. We're going to start with 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and we're going to toss this tea into the flour, and then we're going to add the salt. So in goes the tea, and in goes the salt, and then we're just going to make sure that it gets all worked throughout. Now, some people really don't care for Earl Grey, and it's important that before you try this recipe, you know whether you're one of those people or not. I never really cared for Earl Grey until the last couple years, where I just really decided that I wanted to find one that I enjoyed. And when I discovered this Earl Grey, this white tip Earl Grey from the Tea Source, I was enraptured. It is such a marvelous blend, and it is so full and rich. I think that you will definitely love it if you have at all an inclining to try Earl Grey. So once this is worked all the way through, and we know that we've got the salt and the tea mixed well, it's going to look like you've got little bugs in there, isn't it? But don't worry, it's just Earl Grey. And then we're going to add separately, we're going to set that aside, and we're going to add separately into our mixer, we're going to put 2 full sticks of butter, and we're using real butter. We're going to be using confection sugar or powdered sugar, and then we're going to be using fresh orange zest. So let's just toss those in and get going. All right, get those in there. That's always the challenge, isn't it, when they stick? You want to make sure that these are definitely room temperature. I set these out last night. I keep butter a lot of times in my freezer and always have it on call, and then I pull it out as needed. And so we're going to put those 2 sticks in there, and we're going to get that going. There's nothing like a KitchenAid mixer, and we're going to get that working and constituting. Then we're going to start to add our sugar. And our goal here is to make it get fluffy. And once that's placed in there, we're going to add in just a little bit here of the orange zest. This is really fresh and it kind of sticks, so you'll have to use your fingers to get it out. It's not going to take too long, but you definitely want to get it up to a good speed where it will whip it nice and fine. Looking really good. Okay, let's take a look. Now that the butter is mixed, we're going to add our tea mixture. We're going to do it nicely and gradually, and we're going to make sure that it is on a low speed. So we're going to turn this mixer on low. We just want to slowly add that in until it's just barely mixed. The goal here is just to combine the ingredients, not to beat them to death. As soon as that's all mixed in together, we will go ahead and put it in the pan. Okay, this is going to look really fine and snowy and kind of powdery, but that's okay. Now just go ahead and mix it up together with a spatula, and then you're going to line a small, what is this, kind of a square pan, and everything's going to be going right into this pan. See how powdery that is? Kind of looks like snow. And your first instinct would be, oh my goodness, I have to put some milk in it or some water or something. But there is a lot of butter in this, and it will definitely come together as it's baking. I can tell you right now that the fragrance is just unbelievable. The fresh orange zest and this fabulous tea. Now we're going to press it down into the pan with our hands. Really simple. We're just going to press it down and make sure that it gets into all the corners. If you don't want to just put it in a pan, you certainly can put it into logs, make it into round logs in parchment paper, and pop it into the fridge for a little while or the freezer, harden it up, and then slice it. But in this case, I just wanted to be able to easily cut it. So we've just got it all ready to go into the oven. The oven needs to be at 350. And if you want for decoration, you can definitely add some little slits throughout. And now we're going to pop it in the oven. We'll try it in just a minute. You're going to bake your shortbread for about 20 minutes at 350 in the oven. Now after it comes out, the key to this recipe is making sure that that just cools completely. You can pick up the parchment and remove it out of the pan, set it on a board, let it cool completely before you slice it. If you do that, it's not going to crumble. If you do it early, it may crumble, so you definitely want to let it cool all the way. And once you finish, you can present it like this. This is such beautiful shortbread. Now I've sprinkled a little bit of cinnamon on top of it. It is just, I can't even, well, I've had at least 3 pieces of this in between the programs. It was so good. Very light, very refreshing. It's going to have your guests talking for sure. It's fabulous if you are at a shop and you want to be serving this with a cup of tea. So try this recipe. It is the Earl Grey shortbread. Again, you can make it with matcha, but you want to eliminate the orange zest. Let me know what you decide to do with this recipe. It's delicious.